Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today we're working on a little Craftsman mower. It's got the Briggs Quantum engine, which is my favorite engine in the world, and it just doesn't start. And I've found with almost all lawnmowers that sit for a long time, when they won't start, it's always the carburetor. And we say that all the time. It's always the carburetor. So this time, it's probably going to be the carburetor. We're going to start there. So all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and we appreciate it. Let's get started. Let's scoot you over here just a little bit. That way it'll leave me room to work. There we go. So job one, let's pull the carburetor off. Air filter looks a little old. We'll go ahead and throw her away. I'm hanging on to the screws for a minute. But we're going to get a magnet and put all the screws on it in just a second here. There we go, and there's our carburetor. Oh, and I want to say that's a 3/8. Using a 5/16 to take the first bolts off. And these carburetors have a O-ring on the back. Okay, now that we've got all the screws off, we're going to go ahead and pinch the fuel line. And that'll give us the angle we need to get the rest of it off. And be careful not to fiddle around with this too much. This is a little quarter bolt. And when it comes off, you can get that, it's a little vane that controls the engine speed. And if you get that vane at an awkward position, then you got to take a whole lot apart to get to it, to straighten it out. And we just took that off just so we can get to this easily. Let's grab our tiny little quarter, pop him off. And I'll leave that just like that. Now the only thing you've got left holding it is this linkage and the fuel line. Okay, now I've got no intention of using this fuel line again. I always like to replace the fuel line in these because the interiors can degrade with the ethanol fuel. I take this opportunity to put all my screws on a magnet. And the whole reason you do this is just so you don't have to go searching for screws later. Putting it back together gets a whole lot easier. So let's pull the carburetor off. And only one little drop came out. These carburetors, this is plastic, so you want to use care, be gentle with it. And this should rotate right off. There we go. A little covered in grease, so it didn't rotate easily. Now make sure our little weather vane is sitting in the right place. Now let's take this over to the bench and clean her up and run her through the ultrasonic and clean the jets. Now I know this looks like a brand new carb, but I promise it's not. It's the same old piece of junk that was on it before. I love that super clean stuff. Super good for cleaning carburetors and whatnot. Let's get the gasket off. And this is the gasket between the body and the air filter. Now, if you're doing yours at home, this gasket is semi-important on one with auto choke. And you can know you've got auto choke if you've got this little thing on the front. If you prime it, it's not auto choke, and this gasket is imperative. So let's take the bowl off. Let's see now. Let's go with a 1/2 inch. That's on there pretty tight. Usually when you break them loose, they come off real fast. That might not be a good sign of what might be inside this guy. And, maybe she was cross-threaded. The threads look okay. Kind of hard to say. So now what you look for on these, there's a little hole on each side and a hole down the center. And if that's clear, it'll usually run okay. So I use floral wire that I got from Walmart or Dollar Tree or something. I think I paid $1.19 for it. And we're going to put it through the little holes in the jets. I don't know if you can see this, all the little junk that came out on the end of it. That would have prevented this from running. That would explain it not starting right there. So now we're going to go down the center. And it feels pretty polluted in there. It feels bad. Okay, now what we've done is we've shaken it up. We're going to run the whole carburetor through the ultrasonic. And that'll finish the job of cleaning it for us. Then we'll run the wire at the end again. Now the pin holding the bowl stuck. There you go, that loosened it up. Wow, my worst enemy in the world, rust. So I know you can't see this easily. Let's see if I can get a light on it. There you go. That would prevent it from running. That's just a mess. So we're going to pull this off and throw it in the ultrasonic, and we'll be back in an hour. Now that we've had a trip to the ultrasonic, let's take a look inside now. See what looked really bad before? Now it looks considerably better. So let's get her back together and see what we've got. Look at the bowl. That was a mess. It had garbage all over the place on the inside. Now before we put it together, we're going to focus on the jet for just a second. This is the root of all evil in carburetors. This is what gets clogged when your mower won't start. You're getting it through the side, and there's two holes that are attached. Now we'll go through the top and make sure we don't feel anything. Go in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out. Go through the side again. And you should be able to blow through this hole, and it'll come out these holes. And it does. So let's get her back together and see what we've got. Here's our float and our pin. There we go. And we're going to put our little gasket back on our jet. And this is specific to Briggs style carburetors. If you've got a Honda, the jets, this will be a regular bolt, and the jet will be inside the tube. But that's for another day when we've got a Honda to play with. And remember to get your gasket on here. This gasket's really not saving you from leaks, but this one is. If the fuel level is correct, this gasket will barely ever get wet. It'll only get wet when you bang into bumps and splash it around. I'll tell you what, that feels a lot better going together than it did when it was coming apart. So we've got a carburetor. I cleaned the outside of super clean before we even got to work on it. Just because I hate to put crazy dirty stuff inside the ultrasonic. So let's take her over to the mower and see what we've got. I went ahead and cleaned the motor up just a little bit, not a whole lot. And I pulled the fuel line off and washed out the inside of the gas tank. So she's all ready to go. So now we'll do that. And since we kept our bolts on a magnet, they're pretty easy to find now. We get the first thread started there. Snug her up just a bit. Now this one's really hard to reach on the other side, so I usually just use the screw gun to get it started. And I just go very slow and gentle, just in case it tries to cross threads. snug, and snug. Okay, next thing we'll do is the fuel line. Now I used the old fuel line to measure this one, just to make life easy on myself. And if you remember, we had to take it off in order to get the carburetor to let go of the linkage. You always want to put it back together in the same order you took it apart. And don't make your fuel line a little bit longer just for safety, because then it really won't fit. These things are very fussy about their length. Okay, come on, buddy, get on there. There you go. And we've got a fuel line. Brand new fuel line fights a little bit harder than the old stuff does. Our clamps are nice and tight, so let's get this back together. Okay, had to take a break for a few minutes. Let's get this back together. And if it doesn't move freely, you have to take this top cover off. Well, you take the gas tank off, then you take this off and get this all realigned. But you'll know if it's not going in because it won't want to even screw in very well. Now, that one's moving like it wants cleaned up a little bit. So we're going to clean it up just a little bit before we finish her off. I took it outside and I cleaned this all up really good. And see now how it moves nice and freely. If you hold it this way and it doesn't return, then it's not going to start. If it sticks this way, it's not going to run. If it sticks this way, it's not going to start. But you can see she's running just perfect now. So let's get the lid on her and get a little bit of fuel in it. Let's not get any junk in the gas tank. And then we'll take her out and give her a run. See how she starts and see how she runs. Okay. Now this I did clean up because, oh, that's where the air comes through. So we put a new air filter on. So this air filter is a little done, so we put a new air filter on it. That was embarrassingly done. So now, at least on paper, this is a running lawnmower and ready to go out the door. Let's put her down and find out. So we're going to need some gas. Let's lock a wheel and get some gas for her. Now I like to run this part straight through so you can see there's no tomfoolery going. That they really do start really easy once you get the carb right. And you saw that one, there was just no way it was going to start. Well, let's get our tools out of the way. That'll take about 30 seconds for the fuel to settle into the carburetor. I'd say it's been 30 seconds. What do you think? We'll pull Speedy out of the way. Now I watch Bruce start these on that all the time. I'm just not brave enough. She sounds pretty good, doesn't she? Nice and smooth, no fluttering. And that might be the first time this mower's run in a couple of years. When I got it, it was in the back of some guy's house, and I bought it in the dark along with a Echo weed eater. I mean, 2 years, 3 years maybe, sitting in the dirt. It was covered. And first pull, it's always the carburetor. We always say that, it's always the carburetor. The jets are the reason that a mower won't start 99% of the time. Now, if it's a Honda, you take that bottom bolt off of the bowl and then put a screwdriver up inside the center shaft of the carburetor and unscrew the jet there and then clean it out. On a Briggs motor, it's more common that the bolt will be part of the nut that holds it together. And on some of the black plastic carburetors, there's a white insert that you can pop out with a screwdriver and clean it all up, and that's the jets. Now, the easy way to tell is if the bottom bolt is brass, then that's the jet for the engine. If it's not brass, then the jet is hidden underneath it somewhere. Well, thank you all for watching, and all you new guys, go ahead and subscribe. You made it this far, you might as well. We'll see you next time.